When I pushed Miami off to the side into the group of five, unlikely contenders in the AFC, they get Teron Armstead to play left tackle for them, and they get Tyreek Hill. They get Tyreek Hill with Jalen Waddle added to Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds, Connor Williams if you want on offensive line. You want to throw him in there too? They even got a decent backup or competition, depending on how you want to look at it, with Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, you know.
All right.
Why are you laughing? Miami ain't no joke, okay? They ain't a laughing stock no more. At least not now. I mean, look, they got an unproven coach. We haven't seen Mike McDaniels call a play.
Yeah.
I get it.
Right, exactly.
But in terms of like, okay, but unfortunately they can't play games right now.
Right.
The infusion of talent, you can't argue with that. They're better talent-wise than they were at the start of the offseason.
Talent-wise, they're better. I'll say it this way.
Oh, I forgot about Cedric Wilson. Forgot about him. That's a great pickup from Dallas. Yeah.
It is. They're better on paper. They're better on paper than they were last year. Absolutely. So they are paper champions, no question. Now, they are. They are. It looks good. It looks good on paper.
No, but saying it looks good on paper and paper champions is two different things, and you know it. That's two different things. Paper champions is synonymous with frauds. Okay, but go ahead.
I'm not.
Which maybe they end up being. They could end up being paper champions.
I'm not a believer. I'm not a believer right now for a couple of reasons. Let's just start here. And you touched on it. You said it. You didn't gloss over it, but you didn't underline it either. And you didn't say it in bold. It's 72-point type. We were talking here at the beginning of Black History Month, last month. We said the Miami Dolphins, who had made the playoffs, who had winning seasons, 2 out of the last 3 years, fired their coach, Brian Flores, a really good coach. So their talent, they upgraded their talent. They downgraded until I see proof. They downgraded with the head coaching spot because they had a guy who clearly could do the job and could get them to respond to him and get them to buy into him. They got that guy. They moved on from a guy. They moved on to someone who really hasn't done it before at the head coaching spot.
I do think it's unfair to call it a downgrade, though. It goes both ways. I do think it's unfair to say it's a downgrade.
Tell me why. Tell me why it's not a downgrade.
Well, you just said, and you qualified it yourself, until you see proof. So until you see proof, you don't know what it is. It's not a downgrade because what if he's better? What if he ends up being a more successful coach, even if for no other reason than the talent that they gave him? But he could end up being a better coach.
That's fair. It could. You never say never. There's a chance. There's a chance he could be better, but chances are, it's based on
he does have a tough act to follow.
Yeah, based on historical precedent. First-year head coaches, generally don't come out and be like, oh, my God, this guy is the greatest coach. There's an adjustment period. There's a learning period.
Sure.
And
sure.
I'll tell you, and I've got to just be honest about everything, just so you know where I'm coming from. All of my biases I will bring out here, all of my sources that I use to inform my opinions, I'm gonna put them all out on the table. I actually was kind of turned off by Mike McDaniel, and I understand. He talked like a guy when he was one of his first or second interview. He talked like a guy who didn't have the job. He had the job, and I just didn't like the way he was kissing Stephen Ross's ass. He already had the job. You got the job. He's like, oh, people don't understand what a great owner we have. I'm like, dude, you just come off as so disingenuous. You're ingratiating yourself to the owner. The contract is signed, right? The lawyer signed off on it, T's crossed, I's dotted. Calm down. So I'm not sure about him just personally. But as a head coach, I really don't know what he's bringing to the table. But more than that, so these are my biases. I'm putting it all up there. Maybe it's 1% of my opinion, but I just want you to know everything that I'm looking at when I say I'm not sure about Miami. But here's my bigger point, bigger than Mike McDaniel, Brian Flores. Teams,
Did I say McDaniels
for the most part,
earlier? I might have said McDaniels. Sorry.
It's McDaniel,
Yeah.
not McDonald's. Right.
I might have said McDaniels earlier. Josh,
All right.
sorry. Go ahead.
So, teams who generally are that aggressive in free agency, for the most part, you always have the Rams example, F them picks, great teams making moves. Buffalo, really good team, making a really big move with Von Miller. But for the most part, teams that are ultra aggressive in free agency, they have to be. They have to be. It tells you about their desperation. It tells you about their mediocrity. So Miami has been mediocre for a long time. They made the playoffs a couple of times in the last decade. I said yesterday, Mike, the stat blows my mind. They haven't had a top 10 offense in 27 years. So they're trying.
Damn, 30 years? Golly.
Yeah. And that's something. Isn't that something? That may be my favorite stat of the last.
Even the Wildcat years, even the Tony Soprano Wildcat years, they didn't crack the top 10.
Insane. It's insane. It's really insane. So they got a long way to go, and they got a lot of competition in their division just to get in those 6 divisional games. They're not in position in these 6 games. Still, even with their moves.
Well, I mean, two of the teams you don't care about. I know you don't care. You already got the Patriots going 4-13 and the Jets ain't a threat.
I was exaggerating.
Okay.
No, the Jets are a threat. The Jets are a threat. My point, in the division, in the 6 games in the division, there are no gimmies for them. The only team in that division that can look at these 6 games and say, oh yeah, we'll win more than we lose in the division is Buffalo. That's the only team that knows right now in March, we will win more than we lose in our own division. So Miami's got to, even if they're improved, even if they're more exciting than they've been, I have a hard time putting them in the contender category. Somebody said to me yesterday, hey, Tua down the stretch was pretty good. And I went back and looked. You know what Tua finished
Relatively speaking. Relatively speaking.
You know what is?
He got better.
Yes. He had 16 touchdowns and 10 picks.
Yeah. No, he got better. Like we say, he was good relative to what he had been. Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Because what's interesting about your take on the state of the Dolphins is it's quite the juxtaposition with your enthusiasm about the Jaguars and what they did this offseason. Is it just because Doug Peterson? Because I have a theory and a question I want to ask you. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Doug Peterson
has won a Super Bowl, but when we last saw Doug Peterson, he was, playing Nate Sudfeld at the end of the season in Philadelphia. We're getting run out of town.
Right. Stupid. Right.
But nonetheless, he's more proved than Mike McDaniel. More proven than Mike McDaniel.
And it's context too. I mean, think about it. Think about their division too. Like they had
one playoff team, a borderline second playoff team. So their division is about the same as the AFC East. But their division is about as strong as the AFC East. Because if you want to say the Titans are the Bills of the AFC South, and the Colts, the improved Colts, are the Patriots of the AFC South, that leaves the Texans, which would be the Jets. I don't think you're not any indication of something about the AFC West. They had one in a borderline second.
They had one playoff team.
They had one in a borderline second. Okay.
I don't care about the borderline.
You said the Patriots weren't a real playoff team last year. You shit on the Patriots. So the point remains.
They were the worst.
They
were the worst one, but they got in.
Neither the Jags nor the Dolphins are in the AFC West. Let's just agree on that. But my point ain't Doug Peterson, and I'm not trying to do a side by side of those divisions. I want to ask you an honest question, because I'm glad you brought up your bias. I actually want to ask you an honest question, and there's no judgment when I ask this question. But how much of what you think about the Dolphins, is clouded by the Stephen Ross, the Brian Flores? I guess Mike McDaniel rubbed you the wrong way. Okay. The Tyreek Hill, whatever it is, how much of all of that is clouding your interpretation of the Dolphins, what they've done this offseason and what they're capable of doing next season?
No,
because I think it's interesting that you were gung-ho about Duval. You were gung-ho about Duval, and who spent more money than anybody the last decade and ain't got nothing to show for it.
Because they needed to, right? They needed to.
Right, and so did the Dolphins. And you add the talent that the Dolphins had the worst offensive line in the league last year. They bring in one of the best left tackles in the league and Connor Williams. The Dolphins had, I think, the 30th ranked running game. I know Raheem Mostert can't stay healthy, and Chase Edmonds is certainly no workhorse, but they bring in two running backs to upgrade.
That's part of it.
The point is they upgraded. And wide receiver, you have a record-setting rookie with Tyreek Hill and Cedric Wilson. My point is, yes, just like the Jaguars, and just like you said about teams that are aggressive in free agency, is because they need to. So given what they needed and what they did, you have to tip your cap to the Dolphins, whether it translates to contending. Yeah. Certainly, I understand your reservations on that. I certainly, but I would have to say right now, they're improved. Yeah, shoot.
All right, let me answer your question. So how much of it is, how much does it factor in? It factors in, but I'd say 5%. 5%. Okay. I think you. Okay. I
was just curious. I didn't guess it. I didn't guess what the number was. Well, I just was like interested that you were so excited about Jacksonville, but not Miami.
Stephen Ross, different situations. But Stephen Ross, Mike McDaniel, Brian Flores, that whole thing, maybe 5%. Tyreek Hill, all by himself, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
We've covered that already. We've
covered it. But I just want to point out to you your comment from last week. You're not the only one with Google, okay? I got Google too, okay? So I know all about Tyreek Hill. I know all about Tyreek Hill. So that's part of it. Yeah. Okay, that's nice. But I think even bigger than that, you mentioned all these guys, and you already gave the answer in your defense. The defense of these moves, you gave the answer of why these moves are questionable. Hey, I know Mostert can't stay healthy. That's a big part. Armstead, really talented, rarely on the field. That's a big part of it. Tyreek Hill coming over, 5 draft picks, explosive talent, but he was in the right situation with the best quarterback or one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league.
That really bothered me. That's what bothered me the last day. That bothered me. You know, I've seen quite a bit of that. I've seen quite a bit of with Tyreek Hill about to see how the other half lives without Patrick Mahomes, right. Or in some instances, wow, you know, Michael, I think Andre 3000 is the second best MC of all time behind Black Thought.
That bothers me.
But Outkast ain't Outkast. Outkast ain't Outkast. Outkast ain't Outkast without Big Boy, who's dope in his own right. Okay? So I don't think why can't both of them have been dope? Like Tyreek Hill made Patrick Mahomes life a hell of a lot easier. He made it so, but to Tyreek Hill now look, Tua Tagovailoa is a downgrade from Patrick Mahomes, but that does not mean that those 5 picks and that $120 million and $72 million guaranteed was not money and draft capital well spent for a guy that's one of the most incredible wide receivers in the NFL. Okay? If nothing else, he's taking the top off that mug. If nothing else, the defense going to account for him. And Tua Tagovailoa can throw all the slants and bubble screens he wants, and all he got to do is get the ball in either him or Jalen Waddle's hands, and they could do the rest. Meanwhile, we'll get to Kansas City. We'll get to Kansas City later. We'll get to Kansas City later. I don't want to get into. I don't want to get to Patrick Mahomes. I don't want to derail the Dolphins conversation.
I don't want to talk about that.
No. I was about to keep going. I was like, no, I'll save that for later in the show. All I'm saying is, it's like, Michael, the risk of free agency. You can say that about every team. I just find it interesting, and this is not rhetorical. I just find it interesting how you're shitting on these Dolphins moves. If you don't want to put them in the Super Bowl, I get it. I get not put them in the Super Bowl. Sure, I'm not asking you to do that. But it's like with every team, you could point to questions about the acquisition and putting them in a different system, the amount of money spent, the amount of picks given up. There's a lot of big ones. This whole offseason been full of big ones. So if you want to say, well, these moves are questionable, well, we could do that with every move in free agency.
But it's not just, of course.
Or
but I'm saying specifically, Armstead, the history. I didn't invent his injury history. That's who he is now. That's who he's become. Mm-hmm. He's talented when he plays. Most of the time he ain't playing. He ain't out there. Mostert, that's a problem. Injuries are a problem. Now, I'm glad you mentioned. Can I bring it back? To your MC example? All right. Mm-hmm. So if I've got a great microphone, there's a big difference if I've got Black Thought before that microphone doing his thing, and then I've got Michael Holley trying to rap. Okay, the microphone could be phenomenal, but it all comes down to the MC. So yeah, Tyreek Hill can take the top off the defense. We know that, but what if the quarterback can't take advantage of it? Tua?
No,
That's what Tua's gonna do?
I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes, but he didn't have to be. By the way, Teron Armstead, just so we don't overstate this, he played in 8 games last year. Previous 2 games he played in 15 and 14. So he's not exactly brittle. Okay, like is he a rock of stability? And he's had injuries early in his career. 1 year he played 7 games. Another year he played 10.
Okay.
But he's not brittle. You act like you said most of the time he's not playing. That's patently false. That's not true. Last year he missed half the season, but it's not like it's his career history is that he never plays.
Okay.
We're right. It's 17 games now. Tua Tagovailoa, to me, this is a master class. And listen, man, I don't love giving Stephen Ross props any more than you do. But this is a master class in loving the one you're with. So I don't know about you, and I ain't seen the receipts, but I find it more than believable that Stephen Ross would incentivize Brian Flores to tank for Joe Burrow. I believe it. Whether or not it's on tape or there's a smoking gun, I believe it. And I told you that not everybody in the organization was thrilled with Tua Tagovailoa because I refuse to believe that Brian Flores was going to pull Ryan Fitzpatrick when that team was winning to put in Tua Tagovailoa. But they did, and the rest is history. I'm no Tua fan. You know that. Between the two of us, I think less of Tua than you do, per our last conversation. I think, is that not fair?
Right.
Having said
That's
that,
right. Yeah.
This is how you love the one you with. Dude's back at Alabama now. Injuries aside, he ain't got to be great. He doesn't have to be great. All he got to do is get the ball in their hands. Now, whether it's 60 yards downfield or 6 yards downfield, he is surrounded by special skill position talent in the backfield. He's got home run hitters in the backfield. He's got home run hitters at wide receiver. Even if you don't think Teron Armstead is reliable, let's just say he's not reliable. And Connor Williams ain't my man used to play for the Cowboys, Allen. Larry Allen. He ain't Larry Allen.
Larry Allen.
You know what I mean? I'm not, but they were the worst offensive line in the league according to Pro Football Focus last year. And they've upgraded it. So I'm not throwing a parade on South Beach. Don't get me wrong, Michael. But I think the Dolphins, for me, have moved from that group of 5, that group of other teams. Last week early in the week we did our locks and playoff locks game or whatever. We had 11 teams we could see making the playoffs. The other 5, not so much. The Dolphins are now in the playoff mix as far as I'm concerned. Would I put them in the Super Bowl? No. I do have to see more. It looks really good on paper, as good as anybody else's offense on paper, and that's with Tua Tagovailoa. That's with Tua. I mean, let's be fair. I try to be fair to Tua. I'm not a fan, but I can still be fair. He hasn't exactly had a lot of time. Once upon a time, we used to give quarterbacks time, and he just may not be that guy. But I'll ask you this.
I think that's it.
How good, but does he have to be that guy with this kind of talent around him? And not to say nothing of a pretty damn good defense as well.
Now we're switching roles because when I said to you last week, I said, are we overreacting with all these aggressive moves to get quarterbacks? Can't you fortify the rest of the team and then have a good quarterback and then win games? And you said that day is dead.
Recent history shows you need to be elite guy to be an annual contender. Yeah, it does.
So do you need that guy? According to you, you do. You do need that guy. And he said he's back at. You said he's back at Alabama
to win the Super Bowl.
They ain't playing Vanderbilt.
These guys, those other guys get paid too. But I mean, again, at Alabama, the knock on him, as it is with most Alabama quarterbacks, except for, Bryce Young but even what we saw with Mac Jones is like, look at the offensive line, look at all the talent around him. This is a lot of talent, and so maybe if Tua can improve somewhat, or hell, assuming he holds off Teddy Bridgewater, maybe that's enough with his talent to get in the playoffs this year, and we'll see what happens down the road. I got one more thing to say to you.
Go ahead.
I don't know how you felt about the 5 draft picks. Personally, I loved it. That was That's what you got to get up for a 99. I went straight to franchise mode. When somebody got a 99 next to them, you got to give up a bunch of picks to get them.
I love that.
Coming cheap. They are not coming cheap. And I love any team that's aggressive. Go for it.
Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.